Okay, before I get into this review, I got a general question. Why is this movie called First Steps? I don't understand why it's called Fantastic Four First Steps. You see, because this isn't the first iteration of these characters in a movie. Hell, it's not even the fourth, it's the fifth. This is the fifth Fantastic Four movie we've gotten. Um, and it's not like this movie is showcasing their first time going into space or anything like that, or them tackling anything for the first time that would warrant the terminology of first steps. In fact, the only character that I would assume it was actually going for that subheading for was Franklin, the baby, in which he would have taken his first steps at some point in time. And the movie goes through huge chunks of time, so that was very plausible. But he never walks in this entire movie. He never walks, doesn't even crawl. So I don't understand why it was called First Steps. That is a very confusing thing for me. If someone can explain to me why it was called that, I'd really appreciate it. But now, on to the review. This movie was boring, very boring. It was incredibly boring. I can't stress that enough. Before anything else, I do not like the Superman movie. The Superman movie is a bad movie. That is a very much a very bad movie. But that movie was more entertaining than the Fantastic Four First Steps. Fantastic Four First Steps is just a slow trudge to get through. A lot of this movie's appeal happens to come from the fact that you're either already aware of the Fantastic Four, you're a fan of Marvel movies in general, or you just typically understand comic book movies at this point in time. And this being such an offshoot from the typical Marvel formula, it seemed interesting and impressive. But it really isn't. This movie, in short, would be plot armor. The entirety of this movie's structure can just be boiled down to plot armor. There's so many moments and situations where things happen in a particular way that just is perfectly acceptable for the main characters to get what they need in order to do what they do. Stuff will pop up that seems like an inconvenience or seems like it might be a problem or a struggle for them to overcome, but then they just immediately come up with a brand new idea and plan without no effort whatsoever. So it's ridiculous because the situation itself is solved with zero to no effort, and then once that situation becomes like compromise or something like that, then again another situation is solved, then like they just immediately have another plan with zero effort, and there's no type of synergy or character development done within this movie. Characters are kind of off doing their own thing, and because you know they're a group and they have a group dynamic, it gives you an impression that, oh, it's actually doing something or developing them, but it's not. The Thing is in this movie. He genuinely does nothing, but you have a situation where him actually trying to talk to a woman, and that woman appears 3 times in the movie, and he only speaks to her 2 out of those 3 times, and it goes nowhere because the 3rd time he talks to her, you never see her again throughout the rest of the movie. You have so many moments and so many situations where essentially they're all around each other and you're supposed to understand their family dynamic without them actually giving them any type of controversy or dynamic considering the situation involving the family. Franklin possibly being born with abilities much like with them, Galactus wanting Franklin, different scenarios that they are involved with or different things. Johnny apparently really wants to go back into space, but it seems as if Reed has misgivings from it because of the accident and what it led to. And that was very much a justifiable and understandable concept, but the movie doesn't dive into it. So it's like it's mentioned and then it just goes away. And that's it. And it's like the whole movie itself is just kind of built around that dynamic with these characters. And you kind of have to either have some idea who they are, or it just lightly touches on anything that could possibly be like a personality trait or any type of concept of development within these characters. Sue is just the strong motherly type without giving really any type of background, or not more so a background, but not really given any type of a reason or a concept behind it. And it's like, oh, she's just motherly. And it's like, all right, I guess. So, and it's like, Reed is smart. And it's like, but he keeps doing boneheaded things. And it's like, all right, I guess. And it's like Sue, and then even with Sue being motherly, and it's like, all right, she's motherly and understanding. But it's like a majority of the issues that are brought up are caused behind her inability to understand Reed's ability to just think. And it's like, all right, I'm someone who's intelligent, and I think of all the possible variables and what to go and like what to do, what to say, how things work out, make plans upon plans upon plans. I'm smart. And it's like, yeah, it's just how his brain's wired. And it's like, this is the man that you married. And then upon this being put into full view when involving their child, and it's like he immediately understands and thinks of a horrible scenario involving their child, much like giving it up to Galactus to save the planet. But he thinks of it immediately, and then just as quickly says, we're not doing that. And yet I'm supposed to understand that Sue finds fault that he would even think of that concept. No, that doesn't make any sense. And then again, if you know and love this man, then you understand that he's not doing this with malicious intent. He's not doing this because he actually is going to do anything to your baby. It's a thought. He had a thought. You understand he had the thought, but there's nothing bad behind it because he doesn't do anything. There's never a moment where Reed is like, we gotta give the baby up, or like Sue had to talk him out of trying to give up their baby. None of that ever happens. So, which would have been some type of, that would have been an extreme dynamic, but it would have been something. Again, anything. This movie just kind of just flows, just goes through this weird pacing of just like, well, there you go, 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 they went. And again, nothing is done to actually warrant or justify half of the plot points that happen within this movie. Hell, Reed makes assumptions on how these aliens operate based off of nothing but him just deciding that he did a calculation. Then later in the movie stating that he doesn't understand the technology, their concept of being, or even where they come from, or why they do what they do, or what they are, or what they make up. And yet, he's just easily able to summarize, well, if we do this to Galactus, he'll be trapped. And it's like, who the fuck told you that? How do you know that'll be it? And it's like, he won't come back because he'll be teleported somewhere else. How do you know he won't come back? And it's like, he'll be stranded. How? How do you know that? Because he ain't got a ship. How do you know that he needs the ship in order for him to get anywhere? Hell, the movie introduces them using FTL, which is faster than light speed. And they utilize that multiple times to just go to and fro Earth, to and from Earth. And then they showcase that Silver Surfer, as well as Galactus, is capable of doing the same thing. Yet they do it to leave Earth. They do it immediately upon like their rocket entering Earth's orbit or exiting Earth's orbit. And then they go faster than light speed to get to where Galactus is to try and like find out and converse with the Galactus and the Silver Surfer. Yet Galactus does the exact same thing, but appears near Jupiter and then slowly treks towards Earth, which takes months, like literal months or a month, in order for him to go from Jupiter past Mars and the moon to get to Earth. And all that while, because of the plot armor, the main characters are able to build a device to help them defeat Galactus, at that point, that was the plan. And all the while that was happening, Johnny was able to understand and break down an alien language just in time to be able to confront the Silver Surfer. So the Silver Surfer would leave them alone so they could keep going with their plan to try and get rid of Galactus. Just plot armor after plot armor. There's no real struggle behind any of the characters. There's nothing really done to signify that they're doing something as a unit or as a team. Like I said, while all this invention stuff is happening, the Thing isn't really doing anything. Even though he's an astronaut, and they could have had him bring up a lot of stuff early on when it comes to tracking Silver Surfer and stuff like that. No, it was all Reed. Reed just did it. And it's like, all right, I guess he's smart. So there you go. I mean, the movie has Galactus' ship use a tractor beam to pull their ship in where they can't escape from, yet Galactus had to leave his ship to get Franklin when he could just use the tractor beam and get Franklin. And then he just really, really, really wanted this baby to take his place for his hunger, which, again, he was able to understand, even though Franklin is this brand new thing and a baby that he don't know what it's about. They don't know what it's about, but it's like, it'll take my spot. I guess, dude. Everyone's just making assumptions in order for this plot to go forward, and it's just really bad. The sad thing is that compared to the Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, that's a much better movie in handling the concept of Galactus as well as Silver Surfer as just characters alone, as well as building up the character dynamic between the Fantastic Four themselves. And that movie is a clusterfuck of a movie. But at the same time, they had so many moments that actually were very well done for a Fantastic Four movie, especially from someone who doesn't know anything about Fantastic Four. You had Johnny and Ben feeling down because Reed and Sue were about to get married and they were thinking whether or not they should quit the team, start their own family. That's a character dynamic, all right? That's something that they got going on. You also got Sue and Reed not really liking the famous lifestyle that they got because of the fact that them being the Fantastic Four. Then you have Johnny and Ben essentially struggling with the fact that it's like, well, if they decide to break it off, can they even be the Fantastic Four anymore? Is their dynamic going to be the same? Will they still be the same family if they decide to create their own family? There was so much that you could do, or that this movie should have done in order for you to actually care about the Fantastic Four. But half of this movie is spent showcasing montages of them either inventing something to try and defeat Galactus and the Silver Surfer, or talking about Sue being pregnant with a baby. And that's the bulk of the movie. So I find it very odd that so many people have basically stated that this movie is just like really good, really great, and things like that. But it really boils down to the fact that it just doesn't do the typical Marvel stuff. It just broke away from the average Marvel formula that everyone has grown to know and despise, that currently is just plaguing the MCU. And because of that, it's just getting and receiving high praises. But the movie itself is just very dull and very boring. Nothing happens. Just hours go by, or an hour goes by before anything actually takes place that could be like, oh, okay, now we're getting interested into this movie. Then it's just nothing. And you can break down a lot of the points from you can compare and contrast certain scenes that happen in this movie compared to the Rise of the Silver Surfer Fantastic Four movie, and it's like that movie actually handled that stuff better. The convincing of Silver Surfer to essentially betray Galactus, that was done better in the Fox Fantastic Four movie. Johnny actually chasing down the Silver Surfer, that scene is a hell of a lot cooler in the Rise of the Silver Surfer than this movie. It's just like, it's sad that this was the case. I already had misgivings about this movie coming out in the first place because Fantastic Four are a very hard group of characters to actually put onto the forefront of the movie scene. They have been for a while, and to see this being done with a grandiose gesture of essentially highlighting the 60s era, which didn't really fit, especially with the technological advancements and the things that they were doing. And it's like, I understand where you're coming from the comics. I understand that that's a thing. But in terms of handling where it is that the MCU is, or what Marvel has become as a whole, goofy. It just made everything and a lot of things that they did goofy. Having a robot that can do anything, but it still takes tapes in order to function correctly, is weird. And does it rewind the tapes? Does it fast forward? That's weird. In the 60s, sure, that's as far as they could think with technological advancements. But for right now, what we're dealing with comics, I understand the aesthetic, but the concept itself is very lacking. They had some flying cars. They didn't. It was like looking at one of those old Looney Tunes cartoons where they were showing you the world of the future that damn near was similar to like just the weirdness that was the Jetsons. Where it was like, this is the future we can look forward to, but it's still just really weird modernized things. And essentially they just did that with 60s shit. So take it or leave it, but it was more so just something else that helped them push their ridiculous plot along, because they could just justify that, well, Reed is smart, so regardless of the technology being where it's at, him being smart overcompensates for that. And it just never made sense at all. So again, you got a boring movie, no type of character development, really bad dynamic, no interesting aspect of happening whatsoever, and it was just overall boring, just really, really boring. Even their final fight with Galactus was boring, as well as the fact that they watered down and nerfed Mr. Fantastic, yet Sue Storm was able to single-handedly push Galactus into a portal by herself. It just, oh my goodness. And honestly, I find that hilarious, considering that that's the opposite of what happened from the Fox's Fantastic Four movie, where Sue couldn't barely make a barrier without passing out or getting a nosebleed, and Mr. Fantastic was basically pushed to the limits of CGI in order to get and showcase what it is that he can do. While in the Fantastic Four First Steps movie, he's barely stretching, barely. He's like making his arms and legs kind of stretch a little bit, but that's as far as that went. Not to the extent to what Mr. Fantastic is known for, but it focused and highlighted more on his intelligence rather than his ability. And honestly, at this point in time, with what technology is at as far as special effects, we should have got a better concept than what was done from the Fox's Mr. Fantastic. No, you didn't need to do anything as ridiculous as that fool when he went dancing on the Rise of the Silver Surfer movie, because that's just a very ridiculous and cringy scene. But you still could have did better with his powers. I mean, at one point, Galactus even started to pull this man, and he was just barely stretching, and it was abysmal to me, just very abysmal. But I would say something that I do give them credit for is the fact that they glossed over their origin story, which genuinely is done within the comics, because as I heard this before, and I was like, that's actually a very good breakdown of these characters, where it's not a matter of seeing these characters, it's not a matter of just seeing how these characters got and learned to understand and use these powers. It's the concept of the Fantastic Four is seeing these individuals with powers live their lives, and it just happened, you know. And it was like, yeah, the smartest man in the world just happens to be able to stretch, but that's not the appealing thing. He's the smartest man in the world. He's Mr. Fantastic because he's smart. That's what we're here to see. You know. And so it was like, just having those personalities clash with these abilities that they have, doing the things they do, that's the appeal of the Fantastic Four. The fact that it glossed over all the intro stuff, them learning their powers, getting used to what it is they're doing, getting known as the Fantastic Four, all of that, get out the way. And that's good. And I was like, yeah, but it seems as if the movie itself just kind of coasted off of the notion that you know who they are, you know what they're about, you know what they can do, even to the point where they mentioned Galactus. It had a long pause, and then upon the Silver Surfer saying Galactus, when she did, the audience or the crowd in the movie gasped when she said his name, but it made no sense because these people have no idea who the hell he is or what he's about, and yet and I was like, that's a perfect prime example as to why this movie is just like kind of full of it. And up until that point, well, like, the movie has just been stale. So I wouldn't say it's a bad movie, but again, it's not a fun one, if that is the best indication of this movie. It's not fun. It wasn't fun to go see. It's not something that I would want to watch again. It's not something that I think would be important to even look at for the MCU. It kind of came and went. Even the post-credit scene was a piece of shit because it didn't do anything. Nothing is appealing about this movie. And honestly, it feels exactly like Captain Marvel, the first Captain Marvel movie. Whereas like, it exists, you are led to believe that it's supposed to be important, but for the most part, you don't need to see this. They're going to throw these characters into the fray of the next Avengers movies with, you know, just kind of everyone dealing with them. And so seeing as how this movie just kind of is built off of you understanding who these characters are already, it doesn't need to you don't need to actually see this so you can get a grasp or understanding of their dynamic, because they don't do anything outside of just preparing for the baby and then preparing for Galactus. That's really the bulk of what this movie is. So it's a very passable movie. You don't need to watch it, and it's definitely not worth another go through or anything like that. People who are happy to see this movie, it really kind of just boils down to the fact that it's just not the typical Marvel formula. But it's not an entertaining movie under any stretch, not at all. So do with that what you will. I will say Superman was a much better film to watch, but Superman is a bad movie, and that's just really not good. So far, the two powerhouse superhero movies that came out were duds. They were both huge, major duds, and that's all I gotta say about that. So this has been another episode of Fun with Flame. I've been your host, Danieltheflame. As always, good people, I really do hope you had fun.